All right, so we got Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen already queued up. It looks like I have a level on him. Let me just check with him. Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah, I gotcha. How's it going?
Yeah, everything's on. It's working. Ever since we had those first two snafus, things would be working.
It was VMix, man. It was them. It wasn't us.
Well, thanks for jumping on. I know you're very busy, but with everything that's been going on over the last couple of days, I'm like, I got to talk to Mark. We got to figure out what the hell's going on. So real quick, because here's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to give you a couple questions, and I'm just going to sit back and let you go because I saw your video, and I'm like, man, there's so much you're doing right now. It's just stunning. But two things I want to ask you about off the bat because they're coming up, and one of them was already passed. What's going on in Wisconsin? I know a lot of people are like, what do you care about Wisconsin? Well, Wisconsin, if they win this Supreme Court thing, Wisconsin Superior Court judge, they may go ahead and gerrymander. So how's that looking for the Republicans?
Yeah, I don't know all the history in Wisconsin, but my understanding, it was a conservative court. They passed a new districting map that was very, very beneficial to Republican congressmen. I think they got like a 6-2 map. That's pretty ridiculous, to be honest with you, in a state that's roughly 50-50. And then they, the court swung back to 4-3 liberal. And this is another election for one of the individuals to replace one of the judges. And I think the problem is that it'll be 4-3 liberal again unless the Republicans win. And they can't trigger a redistricting right away unless a suit gets filed. And so there's some process that might take time. And so the expectations are if that happens, then sometime between now and 2026, they could redistrict it to something that looks more like 4-4, which, to be honest, is probably what it should be. I don't know, but whatever. But that would mean in 2026, well, two of those Republicans would lose their seats. And then that's a problem for the House. And listen, Republicans should be able to win this election.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to. I haven't polled it personally, but Wisconsin was pretty close, for the presidential election. And Trump was on the ticket. Republicans are not doing well in elections where Trump is not on the ticket. And the real problem, the real elephant in the room, and Scott Pretzer has been talking about this too, is that, Trump's done just about everything Trump can do, but it doesn't look like the Republican Party wants to win. And so I don't think this, people have called this super consequential. And it's maybe I think there's a whole lot of reasons to think that 2026 could be a phenomenal election for Republicans, not least of which are Act Blue, the FEC getting involved, FCC coming after things, the mainstream media melting down, a really good map. There's a bunch of reasons why this might not matter because maybe Trump will, pick up a lot more seats than he would have otherwise because Republicans still have that generic ballot +3 advantage. Now, it didn't really result in that many wins this time around. At some point it will. And quite frankly, by 2026, who knows what we'll be looking at. We might be looking at a ton of people arrested. We could be looking at Elon Musk having taken $1 trillion out of the deficit. But it's just it's embarrassing.
I mean, you posted something about, and you can correct me on the numbers, but a whole lot of money was spent before, but they only allocated $2 million to Scott Presler for him to do stuff. Isn't that kind of nuts right there? It just shows there's really no commitment, is there?
Well, this is the problem, and I've been talking about it for a very long time. MAGA is a very good platform. All the things that Trump platformed on, this is a perfect platform for a populist uprising. The problem is that MAGA is good for voters. It's good for the Trump administration, who runs well on it. It's good for influencers, but it's not good for establishment Republicans. And so here's the problem: is that there's Trump. Trump has a couple of PACs. There's a few nonprofits. But D.C. is chock full of traditional Republican establishment, 501c3s and organizations. And those groups, since they haven't been existentially threatened, seem like they're just holding their breath till the end of the Trump administration, and they're just gonna bounce back. And everybody, Scott Presler is a good example that I use. He's like a MAGA folk hero. He's like Johnny Voter Seed out there spreading Republican registrations all across America. And that guy is operating on a shoestring budget. He got $2.2 million in the last cycle. Check this out. Republicans spent $600 million in the GOP primary.
Wow.
They spent $600 million trying to take Trump out. Some of that was Trump spending money to try and keep Trump from being taken out, right? Ron DeSantis paid a pollster $8 million to lie to him and say that he could win when Scott Presler only gets $2 million. Now, can Scott Presler take a $600 million check and convert it into an organization that I don't know? But my point is that you got the American First Policy Institute, you got a couple other groups, but who is what I hear time and time again? I've polled now for 3 different Republican MAGA candidates who are looking at primarying, and I hear the same thing, which is I think I'll do really well in the primary. I'm the real MAGA candidate. I'm the MAGA candidate, and the establishment hates my guts, and they want to run a moderate against me. The moderate's going to run on no principles.
Right.
But here's the part that I think is a problem. I can't get through the Trump administration. I have nobody to talk to. Nobody's helping me out. I don't even know if I'll get the Trump endorsement because sometimes Trump is just coming in and endorsing these well-funded establishment people because he's more worried about his endorsement record necessarily. I don't know. Listen, it's you won the last time. Short of Steve Bannon's 2028 strategy, Trump's not going to run again. So don't worry about your endorsement. It's probably time to take some risks. And there's just there's no pipeline for MAGA candidates. They're out there doing it by themselves, trying to scrape together shoestring budgets. So that's the problem.
I saw that he endorsed Lindsey Graham, and I was like, oh no, why would you endorse Lindsey Graham? But I don't know. They may have some deal behind the scenes or something.
There's probably horse trading we don't know about for sure. But it's I heard this straight out of David Giglio's mouth, who ran in 2022 in California District 13. And he said, I told these establishment people, don't run John Duarte. He's not a real MAGA person. He's going to lose. Trump's going to win this district. And the establishment Republicans said, no, there's no way Trump's going to win this district. We got to run like Democrats.
Right.
And, John Duarte got in there and he voted according to America First Insight, he got an F double minus for America First voting. And then he got destroyed by a Democrat. So it's the same thing plays out over and over again. At a certain point, people can't be surprised that the Republicans do this when Trump's not on the ballot.
So what happened in Pennsylvania? That may be a good. Were they cheated, or did they just blow it again?
I've seen some stuff that make me think that there's reasons to question whether the mail-in ballot stuff was above board. And listen, it just doesn't make sense. Trump won the district by 15 points, and the Republicans are down, and yet a third of the Republican mail-in ballots switched to Democrat. It doesn't make sense. But what also doesn't make sense to me is that I've been trying to interview people that are coming at the election integrity. We talked to Peter Bernegger, and he says, listen, we're going to see stuff. People are going to go to jail. There is going to be an a set of accountability actions. And so that's what I can't really square. He explained to me why he thought that 2024 specifically wasn't stolen. And it boiled down to, again, a grassroots organization that was completely not funded by MAGAsphere, right? It's he has his Wisconsin voter integrity people. He has electionwatch.info. Sorry, that's his site. And they, they file a lot of local lawsuits up in Wisconsin. They got a lot of information FOIA'd out of what went on. And he essentially had his own people in Wisconsin Central Count in Milwaukee in 2024 when the RNC lawyers were ostensibly sitting at a hotel watching this stuff play out on TV. And to hear him say it, back in 2020, they were running all of these supplementary ballot printing machines around the clock for weeks ahead of the 2020 election, and then inserted it all after they sent the Republicans home. That's what he alleges. And that didn't happen this time. And we all know Kamala Harris had to sweep the Rust Belt. And so I think that's a very plausible answer. I've been looking for it for a long time. Because I thought, on election evening, I was like, oh, this is it. They're doing it again. I could probably go back on the streams I was on and pinpoint the exact moment. I'm like, oh no, that's it. They stopped the count. And then, it all started again and Trump won. And I think, Peter Bernegger gave me the most plausible explanation about why it was. And I think, again, it's one of these other situations where it's like, Charlie Kirk does great work. Turning Point USA does a lot of great work. But I know of a couple of other grassroots organizations that were in there doing stuff on an absolute shoestring, like 10X the Vote in Wisconsin, like other people just pitching in and volunteering. And that's great. It's great that people volunteer, especially because Trump can command that amount of support. Right. What happens when it's J.D. Vance, though? Like, where's the $1 billion organization that's made up of dozens of different, there you got training, you got technology, you got campaign consulting, all packaged, ready to go. It's like, who are the real MAGA people that they can get behind? And it just hasn't seemed to have been done.
Is Michael Watley, I know Laura's off. She's not there anymore. Is Michael Watley not doing any of this stuff?
Well, the problem is it's such a big and complex beast. So Michael Watley heads the RNC, which my understanding is a relatively small staff that I think they're headquartered in D.C. It would make sense. And, the problem is you have all these state party chapters. You have all these, different precincts, and there's a precinct strategy out there that probably is on a shoestring too, and they've been chipping it away for years. But then you also have the NRCC, and my expectation is that's probably not led by MAGA people. Then you have the National Senate Republican whatever. Then you got the Republican Governors Association. There's probably a lot of organizations that are involved in making these decisions, or just shoving the prepackaged establishment consulting deal down people's throats. Use our printers, use our tech people, use our, and it's not necessarily money being well spent is what I've heard. A lot of dumb decisions made that result in high consulting fees, but not necessarily outcomes. And then there's, it's... Then there's the whole thought leadership aspect, right? It's well, that's great. We have the American First Policy Institute. But there's literally nobody paying for thought research for America First stuff right now. There's just not. Otherwise, they would have called me up and asked me to pull for them, right? It's all still your heritage foundations and your Club for Growth people. And then that, it gets into the funding, right? And it's okay, well, Trump has Elon and they have a PAC. And that PAC supports Trump. But what about the I don't know, $500 million, $1 billion, $2 billion? I don't know how much is spent a year on this entire network of establishment organizations that's getting money from traditional Republican foundations, the Koch money and stuff like that. That is the money, I think, that got forced on Ron DeSantis and gave Trump an expensive primary.
One of the things I say often, and if some people get sick of me saying it, is I just feel that Republicans as a whole don't know how to win. They've gotten so used to being the Washington Generals against the Democrats that I don't think they realize at this point how close they are to really just taking a hold of things, and they're going to screw it up. They're not, like you said, there's a lot of time before 2026, but this is a time where you can basically come on and try your best to choke the life out of this party, and they're not doing it. It just drives me crazy. So for instance, and I'm sure you've done some numbers already. So I have a question about President Trump's approval rating, but I've got two questions. What was President, how, because CNN and Harry over there has been making up stuff. Oh, he's starting to fall. And of course, James Carville's prediction didn't come true, but are they going to try and make it come true? So the question is, how are his numbers pre-Signalgate, and what are you seeing now post-Signalgate?
Well, I think it's only been about 3 days of Signalgate, and so I'll pull up today's snapshot, and that means 3 out of the 5 days that get averaged in there are post-Signalgate. Really, probably only 2. But his last 2 nights approval were 54 and 51. It's I'm actually starting to get a little bit concerned about my approval rating. And this is a very complex topic. Well, ultimately what it comes down to is that Trump did enter this term with a lower approval rating really than any president in the past. He was basically tied with how Biden did. And that has absolutely nothing to do with Trump and everything to do with the fact that we're at political Armageddon, right? And so you're not going to see Trump get a 60% approval rating. It's just not going to happen. Now, what everybody kind of polled about where I was. There are some people 3 or 4 points to the left of me, but pretty much everybody showed Trump coming in around 50. I think we had him 53 or something the first couple nights. Got up to 56. It's down to 52 today. And that's actually really high because Biden left office at 44. And our people, we're getting a lot of older voters that other people don't. We're getting a lot more politically sophisticated people than the pollsters that only use online panels. So it makes sense. Like when Biden ostensibly won the election and he pissed off a lot of people, but he still got about 43, 44% of the country liking him. Trump is at 52, and I think he's going to stay there. And everybody was like, just over the last 2 weeks, they're trying to cherry pick a couple of Trump's worst polls to create this perception that he was plunging. Everybody was using a CNN poll that had him underwater 8 and a Quinnipiac poll that had him underwater 11. I have him up between 2 to 4 points. So they're 15 points to the left of me. And, there's other people in my vicinity, too, showing Trump at 49, 50, 51. But I get the Trump voter and other people don't. Right. And the one thing, too, is like we talked about this before on your show, how in this cycle, one of the reasons I was accurate is because I was waiting for how people voted in 2020. I'm not doing that now. And if I did, maybe it'd shave a couple points off of Trump, because my theory is that people weren't going to lie about whether they voted for Biden or not. But I think history will tell us that people are going to lie about whether they voted for Kamala Harris or not. Right. And we'll have to see. I got to do some tests. But James Carville, his 30 days have come and gone. There was no plunge. No plunge. And Trump, as we talked about before too, Trump approval is not the number to watch. It's right direction, and my numbers match everybody else's with the highest right direction numbers that we've seen in 19 years. I had a 48%, which was our record for 19 years 3 weeks ago now, and right direction was 46% last night. That's higher than 99% of all of our other polling. And so Signalgate or not, what Signalgate I think is a coordinated intel op. And I don't know if it happened accidentally or not. I think there's reasons to suspect that it didn't. But what wasn't accidental is if you go to Reddit Politics, the subreddit, yesterday morning, or no, was it this morning I counted it? 18 out of the 20 top stories were all about Signalgate. Wow. And so the Democrats have latched onto this one big. They're core. And we know how full of feds Reddit is. So I think that they're trying to coordinate behind this, like build it into some kind of impeachment hoax or something. Yeah. And like Trump's just going to stay at 50. Yeah. That's it. Like it's not going to work. It's just going to make him look more insane. So good luck.
We just watched an interview with Elon Musk. If you haven't seen it, you might want to DVR it or just download it. He was on Bret Baier with the entire DOGE hierarchy. How are people, I mean, this interview is going to, I could imagine if you start looking at, and people saw this, the numbers are going to go up, because it was amazing how they dug in, and it was the first time the entire team was there, and they're talking about Social Security and Medicare, and how the Treasury Department was pilfered, and all kinds of things. How has Doge been perceived thus far?
We only polled on Doge once when Trump was net plus 10. Elon Musk was, I think, plus 6 or 7. Doge was plus 11. So Doge is more popular than Trump was. Now, that was sort of the beginning of February, and maybe it's abated a little bit. But we've asked a couple of times different Doge-related questions, and it's always been a really super surprising majority. I think people aren't like watching the daily news the same way you and I are, but they're also getting a feeling that Trump is now coming in and actually unleashing his agenda, and it's got really high marks. We had 60+% approval, no matter how you ask it, of mass deportations. We had 70% of people angry at the level of waste, fraud, and abuse. We had voters by almost a 2-to-1 margin saying that they want Doge-style audits of Social Security. And, this isn't Doge 2, but it was another example of one of these very prominent things. The Democrats are trying to throw Chuck Schumer into a wood chipper because he helped the Republicans kick the can and they wanted some kind of resistance. And we just asked about that, and I think the number was like 64 or something. 64% of voters were like, oh, cool. Like Chuck Schumer helped everybody out and got us this, you know what I mean? And even like it was like a pretty big plurality of Democrats, I think, supported it. So that's the problem, is that the mainstream media, core left, narrative driving component of the Democrat Party is the vast minority now, and it's just going to get worse for them.
Do you ever do any numbers, because this would seem like a no-brainer, but do you ever do numbers on how people are accepting this violence that's happening? Because it seems to me, even forget the pink and purple hairs, but even normal Democrats must look at this and go, this is insane.
Yeah. So it's hard to get intensity. So it's like, you know, we all know that it was Clown World. And there are multiple measures that I could use to show that, well, it has violent implications. We know that 43% of voters thought a civil war was coming in the next few years. We knew that almost 60% of Democrats thought that right-wing extremists were going to cause violence if Kamala Harris won. Like a lot of measures like that. And we're trying to get at them, you know, with this stuff with Tesla. And so we asked a question set about this. And again, like a lot of people might not even see the videos of cars being keyed, or, you know, some people just might not know. But we said, hey, you know, Elon Musk is CEO of Tesla. Some people have been protesting against Tesla because of his role in the Trump administration. Do you approve or disapprove? And 53% approve of the protests, only 39% disapprove, because they wait for it, because they like the First Amendment. Protesting's great, you know, we're Americans, we can be disagreeable. But then we said, well, Tesla automobiles and Tesla dealerships have been vandalized by anti-Trump protesters. Is vandalism against Tesla an appropriate form of protest? So you tell me if you like this number or not, but 20% say yes.
No, I would expect about 20%, because that's probably the core purple-haired commies that you're hitting somehow. I mean, I think there's going to be a core group of people who would say they wouldn't even mind if somehow they took out Trump. There's going to be that core group of nuts out there. So it's crazy, absolutely nuts.
Yeah, 20 to 72. More men than women said yes. 23%. 18 to 39-year-olds, it was 30. Democrats, it was 28.
Wow.
But, you know, still 12% of independents. Liberals, 28.
That's low. That's still low. Even the Democrats were only at 28.
Let's look at it by Trump approval. Trump's strong disapprovers. You know, Kamala Harris voters, 24%. But, you know, 14% of Donald Trump. Like, here's the problem, is the political lines have been so blurred. You know what I mean? It's like, it used to be 20 years ago, you give me a Democrat or a Republican, and I can almost exactly tell you what they think.
Right.
But according to my numbers, and again, a lot of it is because I'm getting old people that other pollsters have just given up on. But like half our electorate's over 50, you know what I mean? So, you know, you got Republicans watching MSNBC.
Yeah.
You got Democrats watching Fox News. You have people who hate Trump but still vote for him.
Right.
You got people that will vote for Harris despite the fact they hate him. You have people that don't understand what the word liberal means. Like it's so mixed now. You know, I got a 26% Trump Democrat approval rating today. Like,
that's interesting.
And I don't like it. And maybe it's because they're having a mental health crisis and they're not answering polls, or maybe I'm the only one in the industry finding that. Like it's strange times. So
you're willing to ask the question. Maybe the other ones don't even want to know. You know, maybe you're catching that group of people. I got a question. Well, you know,
there's at a certain point there's just limitations to polls. You know, like if I'm trying to really screen for like anti-Trump deranged, like I don't even know what question I could ask. You know, actually, RMG Research did a pretty good job. They said, would it have been better if the assassin in Butler, PA missed? And 28% of Democrats say yes. I would love to see the full crosstabs, though. You know, like, well, you know how crosstabs and crosstabs and demographics work. It's like, okay, if I ask a question, like, would it have been better if the assassin hadn't missed?
Right.
You're going to get maybe more men than women, maybe a lot more Democrats than Republicans, but it might be like 20 to 10, right? Or something like that. But there's one question that you could use as a demographic potentially where you might have 100 and 0. And maybe it's like, well, do you see a therapist weekly? Like, I don't know what it is. I can tell you, like, for instance, self-identified atheists went for Kamala Harris by more than Democrats this time in our polling. So, like, that's an example. I don't know what it is. Like, do you harm kittens? Like, when nobody's watching? Like, like, I'm open to suggestions. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my gosh! All right, so you got the violence, you got Doge. How about this one? How are people feeling about all this lawfare and the crazy judges?
Yeah, I have that too. Let me try and pull it up. So, a good signal. But let me. I want to make sure I have it. Oh no, that's my Biden pardons. We did the auto pen. We've been really, really busy little pollsters. Is it under deportations? Yeah. So this judge. Here's the problem. Here's the political reality: is that Americans still trust the judiciary. Mm-hmm. And that's because they're rightly aware that the Supreme Court of the United States is a co-equal branch government.
Right.
But what they're not potentially aware is that, like, no, not every federal district judge is, right? You know what I mean? It's like, and that's a tough one, and that's something that's manipulated against them in an information war. But in this set, we said, okay, well, how's Trump doing on the issue of immigration? 53% excellent or good, only 33% poor. That's really good. Mm-hmm. But then President Trump has declared the Venezuelan crime gang, TDA, I don't know how to say it, as to be a foreign terrorist organization and invoked the Alien Enemies Act to deport these gang members. Do you support or oppose Trump's policy to deport the gang members? And it's 64% yes, 26% oppose. So good. Like
that's
47% strong support.
It's that same core crazies. It seems like they don't want anything done. 26%.
Yeah, 25 to 30%. The question had the word Trump in it. Yeah. I think is what it comes down to. But yeah, like 25 to 30%. Again, of the people in my polls, that I think represents an equal size portion of the population, but it's tough to measure, right? But yeah, 25 to 30% right now are answering clown world, anti-American, like really dangerous responses.
Now I got a good one for you here. If you haven't,
wait, one second. Let me just give you the punchline though. Okay. We asked if the judge should be a federal district court judge issued an injunction to stop the Trump administration from deporting the gang members. Should the judge be impeached or not? 49% yes, 24% no. So that's 2-1.
Wow.
A lot of not sures, but.
How about the next question in terms of the judges? Forget impeachment because it's going to take 2 years. Should Trump just keep doing it and I won't use the word ignore the judge, but basically say that he doesn't believe the judge has the authority to rule over this case, is what we heard today from. Have you talked to Kyle Seraphin at all? Have you on your show?
No, I haven't. I'd love to. Yeah.
I'll get Ashley to get you his contact information because he's amazing. But when you do talk to him, just make sure you got like a mute button or something because you'll ask him a question and just get out of the way.
I do. I'm probably just for that too.
But one of the things
I don't know if. Well, you're asking me a question. I don't know if we've released these numbers or if it was on our site or not. I have exactly what you're asking about the judges.
Yeah.
I just, it's like I didn't know if you were like seeing a preview or something like where you could just predict the future. This is I haven't covered this on any show, and I don't think they're released yet as a story, but this is a cool set. Because it shows you that Trump has to walk like a pretty delicate line here. You know what I mean? And he can't just run roughshod over the judiciary. I think I teased these a little bit on War Room. But several federal district court judges have issued an injunction to block President Trump's policies, which is closer to your opinion that Trump's policies violate the Constitution or the district court judges are wrongfully interfering with the president's exercise of his constitutional rights. So Trump violating the Constitution wins there 49% to 45%.
Okay.
And I love this as a pollster because the implication is that people are happy about it, right?
Yeah.
Like there are some people that voted for Trump that say, yeah, he's actually violating the Constitution. I mean, like again, 43% think we're on the brink of a civil war. So should President Trump just ignore federal court injunctions he believes are unconstitutional? And this comes back to a misunderstanding about the role of the judiciary, but 27% say yes, 60% say no.
Okay.
And Republicans are split 41-40.
Wow.
So it's like that's bad optics, and I think the Democrats are trying to bait Trump into that.
Yeah.
And then 57% to 28% people agree that this is a constitutional crisis. So, but I think the real story is like, where the hell is Johnson? Like, do something.
Sorry, where the hell is it? Oh, Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson. This is his mess.
Yeah.
He should visit the White House tomorrow, apologize, and have a bill on Trump's desk the following day that says, like, let's just shut down the Maryland and D.C. circuit courts.
Yeah.
And the Senate should ignore the 60-vote filibuster rule because they've already gotten rid of that for judicial appointments, right?
Yep.
So shouldn't be any pearl clutching.
Nope.
Clean up the judiciary and save us all from a constitutional crisis. Because this is one of the things that could lead to the violence, right? Like if the leftists out there are thinking judges are just being ignored by the Trump administration, they're going to bait somebody into some action.
Well, even if they go ahead and do away with the district courts, they're gonna go nuts. So it's like a no-win situation. If Mike Johnson and the Republicans can push this through, where they're just basically going to do away with the district court judges. And I've seen Mike Lee had a good a solution. I don't know if you heard him. He was like, let's put together a 3-judge panel that becomes the district court, basically, and so that these people have no, national injunctions. They have to go through this panel, which I don't know which way they're going to go, but they need to do something. Do something, absolutely.
I think the Issa approach was pretty good. Like he was literally just going to ban their ability to issue an injunction outside of their, I think that'd be a pretty good way to do it. I actually asked Grok, though, I said, let's see if I could pull it up in my history. I was on my stream, and I'm like, hey, Grok, what's the shortest possible bill that could be written that would solve this issue? And it came back with, like, stopping judicial overreach bill of, like, 2025. Wow. And it was like three sections. One of them was effective immediately. Like, you know what I mean? The other two were like, a judge shall not, it's like 3 sentences. It's pretty straightforward. You know what I mean? Like, let's get her done, Congress. Like let's get ourselves out of this. I don't know what
they're waiting for. They should do this right away. And in fact, instead of giving the day off tomorrow, is tomorrow Good Friday? I think it is, right? I'm not sure.
It's Good Friday, right? Man, it creeps up on you. I don't think it's for a little while.
But they, for some reason, they got off for tomorrow, so they're not going to be in town, and people were freaking out about that. So I have like 2 more questions for you. I mean, you've been here for 30 minutes now. Sure. This one's going to be odd. What are people thinking about the face of this party being AOC and the Jasmine Crockett's of the world? I mean, it just seems like they're both nuts. She's out there with Bernie doing their thing about their Marxist stuff, and Jasmine Crockett, I don't know what she's doing. She's just being off the hook out there. Have you done anything to see what people think about these 2 nuts?
Oh, yeah. Now, I do have some private polling that I'm not going to talk about.
Okay.
It's unreleased and uncompleted.
Okay.
But it plays into a theory I have, which is that they are stuck in this catch-22 where the existing leaders understand the value of moderating, but are put in a situation where they just can't. They either will get steamrolled publicly by the echo chambers they've created, like Chuck Schumer will get ratioed if he tries to moderate, right? No matter where he goes. The message just does not want to be heard by the vocal influencer group of people that they've built.
Right.
And then you have all these people who could moderate the party, but there's no upside. They get torn apart. And then you have a vacuum. And so what you have is, like you say, the crazies who are literally feeding into violence. Like AOC was out there supporting fundraising for Luigi Mangione, right? And Jasmine Crockett's trying to get people to punch Nazis or whatever. I don't know. So that's a problem because it's going to turn off more people. So it's like a death spiral. And what it does is it creates a really great opportunity for an outsider to come in who's apolitical and just says, y'all are crazy and I'm going to clean it up. And I have polling that we're going to come out with in a week or two that I think really proves that there's an opportunity like that. Now, the problem is whoever that person is going to get a lot of slings and arrows.
Yep.
But as for like all of the main players, we have polling coming out really soon where it's like looking ahead at the next presidential election, who's the best candidate for Democrats to nominate. And it's not a surprise, like Kamala Harris leads because she was the vice president. She got so much attention. Everybody gushed over how great she was, and she lost. So there's another catch-22. Your best candidate is a loser.
Yeah.
So, like, that's a problem. And then, everybody else, Waltz, Newsom, Shapiro, we put in there. They all do like 10. And then AOC's below the bump, below 10. She's at 8.
Wow.
Wow. And then your other, like, folks in this one, we put Wes Moore in. We like to, throw a couple in there who don't have a shot and see how they do, like 3%. And so that's a tough one, right? But we ask, which is closer to your opinion? The Democrat Party needs to be more moderate or it needs to be more liberal. And America is telling Democrats, like, get your house in order.
Right.
59% say more moderate, only 27% say more liberal. There's that number again, right? Mid to high 20s. And Democrats want their party to be more moderate, 49% to 38%. So...
See, I almost thought that RFK Jr. He might a little bit be too old, and I'm not sure he'd want to run against J.D. Vance anyway. But it would take somebody in the middle like that to drag the party over. I think J.D. Vance would beat the hell out of Kamala Harris.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
RFK was a really good. This individual that I'm polling on actually outperforms RFK.
Wow.
Well, let me rephrase that. RFK as a third party against Trump and Biden, the best he ever did in our numbers was, I think, 16 or 17%.
Okay.
It looks like this individual will do better than that as a third party against Vance and a Democrat. But the problem is that as you get closer to election season, what happened with RFK is that number just kept getting smaller and smaller. Yeah. The Republicans are like, no, we really got to vote for Trump. And the Democrats are like, well, I would have, a lot of them maybe would have said, I would have loved to have voted for RFK in better days. We can't let the Orange Hitler win. and let's face it, any candidate that comes is going to have the way that the Democrat Party has created its, it needs like this pure worship of oppression Olympics and woke cultism.
Yeah.
And if you don't fit that model, they'll destroy you. Yeah. And so a lot of people are going to come in and say, no, we just can't do this stuff with the trans anymore. And they're going to get ripped apart. And in RFK's case, his vaccine stance was never compatible with the Democrat Party. It was so predictable. And I'm glad that he went over to the Trump team. Like, that's the highest and best use of his political capital.
Well, they've got,
and he probably did help Trump about a half a point.
Yeah, they got three years to figure it out. So we'll see very soon. So my last question to you: if there's one data point that myself and people watching should focus on until the next time we have you on, after you come out with your number, what number, what poll, what topic should we focus on that'll give us an indication on how people are feeling towards President Trump? Beyond the obvious one, his daily rating. What is it that you think we should begin to focus on, or is it going to change by the day every time the Democrats come up with something?
No. I think you should look at my theory is that Trump approval is not going to change unless something absolutely crazy happens, like World War III or a financial collapse. I think he's going to be at 50 points plus or minus 2 just for the rest. He's been around forever. They've thrown everything at him. And so that's not very sensitive. Maybe his approval index would be a little bit more sensitive. His strong approve minus strong disapprove. But I think the number to watch is right direction.
Okay.
Because it's still setting records right now. I think next week puts us over the highest the biggest string of contiguous weeks of right direction above 40% in our polling. And I don't think it's going to stay where it's at, like 45, 46, 47. Mm-hmm. But for almost all of our polling, it's been really around 30 or even lower.
Wow.
And if Trump's right direction a couple of months in settles at a 40% rate, mm-hmm. that's a major indication that voters feel like they're getting something that they voted for. And that's the theme of the last couple of decades. All of Rasmussen Report's history is that voters never get what they want.
Right. Okay, well, we'll keep a look at that. Right track, wrong track. And, there's a couple of things that are going to be happening. This April 2nd, Liberation Day, that may skew your numbers big, because I don't know what he's planning on doing on April 2nd. So there's a lot to look forward to, that's for sure. So
I don't even know what that is. You can't even keep up with all this stuff.
And that's exactly it. We don't even know, and I think I'm interested. I'll check your Twitter tomorrow. I'll show people.
Is this when all the tariffs hit?
All the tariffs hit on April 2nd, and I'm really going to be interested in terms of your daily numbers tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow, by Monday, once this DOGE interview, everybody digested that it just happened. I mean, you should really go take a look at it, because it was like, oh, wow. Because everything they had been saying, Mark, was that the DOGE was just these young wet behind the ears kids that were doing all this stuff. And then when he showed his team today, you're like, oh my God. I mean, it was the CEO or founder of Airbnb and this other billionaire. And
wow.
It was a whole bunch of guys that make you sit up and take notice. It wasn't a bunch of college kids. And nobody has even talked about that. And tonight we actually got to see who these people were. So
I think I said it on your show that they needed to make the Doge Prentice.
Yeah.
Because what they're uncovering is like, you can't write stuff this good.
Yeah.
Like, this is fodder for all of the fraud, all of the. It's literally like every political novelist's dream to have been able to come up with something this creative.
Yeah.
It's like like 10 Grisham novels packed into one or whatever. It's like good TV, and it's like young, bright Americans, like, put it on linear television every week and shove it down people's throats. It's going to be, people are looking for, I think, a cultural zeitgeist moment. Like, we don't have Game of Thrones right now. We need something else, right? How about this? This is like Game of Thrones in DC. Let's see it.
It was so impressive. I was like, why did you put this on with Brett Baer? He should have done a press conference or some sort of round table and had these people up there, because I was shocked. I was waiting to see Big Balls and some other college kids come out like chewing gum or something. And when they showed them, like, they were all savvy, rich, wealthy businessmen who have run big companies. And I'm like, that's not at all what the picture that they have put out there in the media. So I think you're going to see some movement in numbers tomorrow, because they're going to have to come out and attack it. I mean, I can't wait to see what the liberal media does, but it's going to be everywhere. People are going to cut it, and there are going to be different clips. It was phenomenal. I loved it.
Oh, man. I'm going to go to Reddit. I'm going to spend the next hour just looking at what Reddit says about this.
Oh yeah,
they're probably upset.
I'll be watching your profile to see what you think about it. All right, Mark. As you guys know, I got the right handle up this time. It's Honest Pollster at X.
There aren't too many of us.
Mark is prolific in terms of him putting out numbers and really snarky tweets sometimes. I love your snarky stuff. And in addition, he's got his own podcast. So go ahead and check out Mark. Mark, thank you again for taking the time on a Thursday off hours night. Thank you very much.
Oh no, I stream at 9 o'clock, so this is child's play. Thanks so much, Barry. Yeah, that's not tonight. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, you guys check them out tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, right?
9 o'clock tomorrow.
How are you liking that time slot?
Oh, I love it. I get kind of tired by like midnight. Sometimes I go like really late. I'm like, oh, And last night was a lot of wood to chop. We did like an hour and a half on all the different ways that a pollster could lie to you, and there are a lot, let me tell you. So if people want to go check that out, it's up on YouTube at Rasmussen_poll.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff.
We'll talk to you very soon. Thank you very much, Mark.
All right. Thanks, Barry.
All right. Bye-bye.
Great to be here.
All right, guys. I'm serious. Follow Mark on X. You'll love his stuff. And again, yes, he is quite snarky, and he talks about a whole bunch of stuff in addition to just the normal pollster type things. And of course, his polls are very, very good. Very good. I love looking at stuff, like talking to people. I'm a big numbers guy. I like to dig into the numbers. If some of you guys got bored, I apologize, but I'm a numbers guy, and some of you are numbers, and you understand this is a guy whose entire career is based upon looking at numbers. So I hope you got something from that. Somebody says, good to see that Mark is looking so relaxed. Yeah, he is. He's good. 9 o'clock tomorrow is his show if you're around. I won't be up that late. I won't have a show, so I'll be tuning in myself. Trump team needs to keep recruiting the young voters for generations to come. Yes, I agree with that. I can't wait to go on X and just see what some of these nuts are saying about that interview tonight. Elon Musk could oversee all the governments on Earth. I don't know if he does have some businesses. I mean, he does have to send up rockets and stuff. So this is probably easy for him. He's probably put together such a good team. This the easiest part of his businesses probably. Okay, Beth just put up Mark's information there, so you can check him out. Yes, Jeffrey, that's what I firmly believe. Numbers don't lie. That's the thing. You can manipulate them, but they're still good numbers. All right, so not to keep you guys here all night, I'm going to jump ahead and get into the nightly 10. Got some good stuff for you today. All right, let's go. So one of the things we're seeing is the Democrats, just like with DOGE, they don't like anything where we're constricting, where we're taking money back, where we're saving the country money, saving you, saving me money. Democrats don't like that whatsoever. I don't know why. I don't know how you built a party on spending and just there was no end to the checkbook. You can spend whatever you want. You can go into deficits, even though some other presidents did build on that as well. But at some point, you have to look at where things are, understand it's completely unsustainable. There is not enough people anymore because you've been promoting, baby removal and stuff. There's not enough people who are generating enough money, and you're going to run out. It's not something that is infinite. There is definitely a finite amount of money that you can pull from the American people. And the only way you can stop this train, the only way you can stop it from going off the cliff, is to begin pulling back, constricting. Try your best to get to a balanced budget. You're not going to get there, but at least try. And the Democrats don't seem to even want to try. That's the sick thing about them.